Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. Welcome back to early day on the farm. So, gonna drop that there, and gonna go head off. This year's pretty simple. Wanted to make sure I got started in March so that I could get things done early enough, but just the goal of trying to get to the new planter is what this year is about. Now, the other thing I did realize that I always tend to just not take into consideration is the fact that I'm going to sell this planter. So that is normal, and that will get me some money. So given that we're at $243,132 for a planter or a seeder, that is, I think, $370,000. I'm pretty comfortable we'll be okay, especially with the sale of this piece of equipment, which should net us $20,000 or $30,000, I would think, as well. So I'm going to top this off. At least I'm going to try to. Interesting. Is it empty? I didn't think it was empty. There we go. So sometimes, especially for the seeds, I think the trigger point is pretty small. But if you've not followed the Farmers Only Club series and seen what I've been doing here, planting with this 6-meter wide seeder on just this field here, 36 and 35, takes a good 4 to 5 hours of work. Today's a perfect example of why that can be a problem. Real life is going to intrude. Now, it's going to intrude in a way that's probably not something I hopefully need to worry about too often, but we have been told probably 3 days ago by our local power company that they are going to have a planned power outage to do some work on equipment, and it's going to last for nearly 6 hours. So that's a large hunk of time where I'm not going to be able to do anything with electricity. So, and that would involve running a computer. So, you know, with an internet connection and so forth. So, just let me get going here. So there we go. So we are planting oats, which is what we do. We do oats, dump straw, bale, and sell all that. So that is going to be the plan. You've seen some changes in the process that I've done last year. I'm not anticipating anything different. I think I've kind of got the drill down here. I do think the picking up of the bales the way I did it, or baling the way I did it, where I really didn't stop with the round baler, then went around, picked it up early, finished the baling, did that in line. I did kind of the trial and error, so I think I've got the way to do it there the most efficiently. You know, what I did not do is determine, is it truly faster time-wise, but mentally it's just less taxing. It's less spinning the wheel, driving around, and so forth if I do it that way, so it works pretty well. There's definitely some time that's still wasted in that you're having to play a little bit when you're dropping the bales with the thin strips of hay or straw that you have to pick up. You know, sometimes the bale's starting to come out at a time where it would land again on the crop, so you run into some issues there. But other than that, it worked well. And I would say even with that, it worked well. I mean, there's just the reality of whatever it takes to get the job done. So it's just that didn't entirely go away is kind of my point. But I wanted to get on here as early as I could. I'm down to probably 2.5, maybe 2.5 hours till the power's supposed to shut off. I'm probably not going to run that close to it, because the last thing I want is to suddenly have a save game problem or something where I drop. So, you know, I'll probably get within 15 minutes or 10 minutes or something, but because my guess is, to be certain, they're going to wait a minute or two until after the time they've given us, but who knows. So it's just a matter of how close do I want to get. Do I want to push it to 5 minutes before? Because I'm certainly going to be able to do that and stop whenever I'd like with regards to that, and try going forward in that direction. So at this point, I did lime field 36. You can see that. I believe I mentioned that before the end of last year's episode, that I was going to go ahead and do that. I did get that done without having to go buy any lime, so that definitely helped the situation. So this is, you know, with selling and not having to go buy any supplies, it's just repairing equipment and so forth, which I think was a few $1,000s at the end of the work I did with selling things and then doing the lime. The other thing then I did take care of at the end of the year off camera was topping off the greenhouses, so that I didn't have to worry about either coming into a spring where I would have a lot of water refilling to do, or that somehow my calculation or my estimate was off, that I could make it from December to March without running out. I'm pretty sure I would have been fine, but I would have probably been down to 2,000 or 3,000, and on a day like today where I'm going to have limited time due to things in real life, it would have been a bad situation to put myself into. So I had time on the day it was December, so I went ahead and did all that work instead of coming in later and liming on a different day or anything like that. So all of that work was done, but with that, with my intent to continue to keep these as short as possible, this is going to be a very much a clone of last year, with the exception that, once again, I'll not be trying things. We also know we won't have to lime. We just limed this field last year, and then obviously this year we went ahead and limed field 36, so this year's not going to be a lime year on either one. So unless something unexpected comes up where I get a windfall of money and someone's selling a field or something and I expand the farm, nothing unique should be happening this year. It should be pretty standard here on the farm, just how we like it. Just want to go about our business and continue to make money and earn a living and go on day by day. So with that, I'm going to step away until we're back for the next work. I will see you in a bit. Welcome to April, here on the server. Just on here this morning, trying to get the fertilization done so that we're fully ready. The big question that's going to be occurring now is, do I have enough fertilizer? So I had just under 4,500 liters. I do have a little bit sitting in the SEEDER. So what I likely will do, I think it's a couple thousand liters, so I think I'll be okay between the two. I don't know that I'm going to use more than, in essence, 6,000 liters across the fields, if I recall. I think that seems 5,000 or so seems about right. But if I can avoid having to go buy any fertilizer, then at least I can retain the amount I have and just put myself in the best spot, that after December this year, that one of the last things we'll be doing on this episode as we wrap the year is swapping out my SEEDER, which would be a wonderful thing. Like I said, I started it about 4,500, so again, I've almost used 1,000 here, and we're coming up on half of this field. So I cross my fingers, going to be hopeful, But I'm simply getting this done. Probably worth taking a peek here at the greenhouses. They're doing okay, so may top those off, but probably not. I'll probably let them go, and somewhere during the year I'll go ahead and top those off. In the future, there'll probably be a day that I'm a little less rushed, and that way it's not a specific job I have on the farm, but maybe getting in here probably after harvest or something like that might work. But that gets you up to speed, and I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I'm back. Let me take a look. I see the rain. Ooh. Less than 2 hours away, but it's only for an hour then. So I'm gonna grab the header here. Alright, jumping on here on the line pretty quickly, about 2 minutes after I got in here. So I'm getting better at getting the header out from behind where I'm storing. Basically, what I think I've determined, I need to kind of be really near the shed, the back of the shed, at a 90-degree angle to what I need to come out, and then basically just sweep the header around the corner so that most of it goes into the shed, or as much of it as possible, and then that gives me enough clearance for the tree. So I'm getting better each time, but I think I may have broken the code a little bit by thinking a lot more deliberately about what I was doing. But I only do it once a year, so it's just a matter of, can I remember? I mean, I guess technically I do it twice a year, because to get back there again, I have to do the opposite of it, basically. I had jumped on yesterday to take a peek and see, because I was hoping that since I had planted in March, I would be able to harvest in June, but in fact, I was not able to do that. So that is interesting, in that I had assumed, because I always planted in April and then could harvest in July, I had always assumed that it was a 3-month cycle for the growth. But I'm not sure that's accurate as I look at this, because obviously it took 4 months at this point for this to be ready this time. So since I've been making shorter videos to try to just make things a little bit more consumable for the Farmers Only Club situation, where I'm playing at a regular pace, doing a lot of repetition, certainly. Obviously, if I do less than that, I'll probably include a little bit more content, but the goal is to kind of go away from just talking for long periods of time, and probably make it, I guess, frankly, a little bit more similar to what I do in the single-player series, where I come on, tell you what's happening for a little bit, share maybe some thoughts that I'm having about things, and then let you be on your way, and just get the work done off camera. Once again, I'm going to go ahead, because I'm still trying to do the timing in my head. Right now, this is mid-October when this day is taking place, and I'm proceeding about another month or so before the videos that I have been posting for Farmers Only Club are ending. But at this point, there's basically a video every 12 days. So the question that I need answered from you, the audience, and the viewers, is, does that work? Is that something that makes sense for this series in your mind, as opposed to what I had been doing for FSN for 200 plus episodes, and for Farmers Only Club for a good amount of episodes, 30 to 40 episodes, before I made the pivot based on a suggestion or two from folks who were looking at things and just saying it's just too much content. And a lot of it is obviously, while they don't mind watching it at times, it's not like they feel they can't miss it because I'm just talking about kind of random things of what's going on in the world, whatever, and that makes it easier to not really worry about, so that in the end, what you may be viewing as viewers is still you know, half an hour every 2 weeks, because you just pop in for a few minutes each episode, just figure out what's happening, and then say, all right, I'm caught up. I know he's going to do this for the rest of the episode. You know, because my stance before had been, I'm doing the work anyway, I'll show it. There's people that probably want to see the whole thing, and for those that don't, they could just skip it. But given the feedback that was like, well, but it's not enjoyable because it's just a lot of going on and on and on, the feedback I got from some people was, you talk too much. You know, it's not that they are specific about, hey, the topics are bad, what you're doing is irrelevant, just talk about what you're doing in the game, nothing like that. It's just, it's too much, which is fine. I can understand that. It is a lot. And it helps, obviously, a little bit in that I don't have to feel like I have to keep talking for an hour or 2 hours while I harvest, for example, to just keep things going. Even if I'm jump cutting here and there, I still used to do probably 30 or 40 minutes for something like this, where this is going to be substantially shorter. So the reality is, with the rain coming in perhaps as early as an hour and 15 minutes from now, I'll probably have this field done in that time, but I know I won't have the whole harvest done. And then I start to get into real life and out of my early morning play window where I can just get on and focus. So it's always disappointing when I see a day like this, and given that yesterday was also rainy, so it worked out that it wasn't ready, because when I came in yesterday, there were going to be 3 more hours of rain. And that would have again taken me outside the window where I could have done anything anyway. I was potentially looking at, if that was a harvest day, being a late night, when I'd prefer it not to be a late night, to try to get things done that day. But my hope was, planting in March, that I'd be done in June, and then I'd have a longer break before winter, so that I could focus on some other things I've been waiting to get to. And the final piece I guess I'll share here related to that is, yes, I'm definitely feeling a lot more strain given the time realities I have, which are probably more in line with what most YouTubers have. Is I'm trying to balance work and a job and so forth with trying to give you guys some content, because I'm certainly not large enough that I could say, you know, maybe this becomes what I do. Like, I think some of the, you know, larger YouTubers who go with Patreon supporters and things like that, I think may be doing this as kind of how they make their money, but that's not an option for me. So I do the best I can to try to give you the best I can. Hopefully people are enjoying it. But having less time, which then kind of translates into everything, less editing and so forth, because there's just less video to work through, does help kind of keep things going, because I really would like to keep up with the pace of things on the channel. I think it is helping the channel grow, because people do feel like, hey, there's something coming every day, and at this point it's really at least 2 things coming every day, because I've got the kind of staple of the golf round in the morning, getting out on the links every morning to play around, and some other content of some other sim. And then it also gives me that flexibility for things like City Skylines 2 that is coming out in, I think, less than a week at this point, and being able to delve into that and not feel like I'm trying to move things around. So going to the 12-day schedule here with FOC makes it simpler, because there's more slots open on the channel. So on the one hand, it makes it simpler that way. I've got more time slots that I can fill with other things. So if I get on, say, a City Skylines marathon or something, I can just throw videos out there relatively frequently and get them consumed, as opposed to working out a pipeline that's really far into the future. But the flip side of that is exactly that. there's more pressure then to stay on top of things, and more likelihood that there would be a disruption into what's happening if something truly unexpected were to happen. Say if I was to get sick for a week and didn't have a voice and didn't have the energy to go ahead and record a video, then there'd be a gap. And I honestly don't know how critical that is. So I can't imagine that there's a lot of folks that I have that are viewers that are here every day. I think some of the golf folks have started to get into that. They talked about how they kind of enjoy it during their morning coffee, and given that a lot of times those are 15 or 20 minute episodes, it's easy enough to do that. But other than that, I haven't really heard anybody saying, yep, I'm here, oh, I missed the content this week, or I missed it, you know, every other day from FOC, and so forth. So that's the feedback I'm looking for from the audience, is really, is this new, is there any downside to this where you're like, no, I really want every other day FOC videos, because, you know, and long ones if they need to be, if you're doing a lot of work, like show it and do whatever. But the feedback I have gotten is saying the opposite, that they'd be fine with just combining things, doing what I'm doing, giving you basically a yearly compilation, keeping you abreast of what's happening where you feel informed, but not then creating 2-hour videos every 2 or 3 days. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this segment, the harvest segment, and we're going to move on. The moon is still visible here. I just love kind of that view in the game all the time. It just, they've done a great job of giving you that atmosphere of harvesting at dawn and things like that, which I think has probably got to be one of the coolest times of the day for most farmers. They're probably fresh with energy, having had some sleep from the night before, and ready to go, and just the day dawning and being out here, out on their field, you know, cutting crops, knowing that they're feeding folks with the work that they're doing. That's got to be pretty satisfying. So I'm going to enjoy what I can of this here. Hope that I don't have any challenge. Obviously the goal for today, if at all possible, is going to be harvest these oats, bale up this straw, and collect it. If not, that'll get spread over a few days. I'm planning to do what I did last time, which is basically keep rolling forward and let the bales drop, collect them all up, and then go collect the additional pieces by running over the field quickly a second time, kind of speeding up between the pieces. That worked well. I'm going to certainly try it again this year. If somehow I suddenly feel differently, I'll be certain to let you know. But that's going to be the plan, and I may show a lot less of that than I did last year, because you now know what I'm doing, and I've spent more time talking about kind of the YouTube realities here than I would have normally done, and so I don't want to make this year's compilation incredibly long. So with that, I will see you in a bit. Popping back in here, unfortunately, pretty much right about at 6. The rain rolled in. I might be able to do a little bit more when I go ahead and resume later, but I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it in the next gap of time I have. But we did finish the top field, and obviously, as you can see, 5 passes here. So it started raining when I was, I don't know, probably not halfway down the field, but I had a good way to go, and I just basically got to turn around here and get ready to go get the truck, and then I got the harvesting while raining reduces yield. So ran it right to the wire, but at least I did get the row finished, which is what I was hoping. I'm going to go ahead and get this dumped off. I didn't quite get a full truck, but at this point this will be like 132,000, and so my thought is, if I dump this now, since I can't do anything else in the rain, that the 120,000 I have left, that I'll go ahead and be able to do it in one truck. And that, just occurred to me, maybe after the harvester or the seeder, if I make that purchase, maybe I can expand this to the full 150,000 and have this maxed out at some point, because that wouldn't be a bad thing. It's not a bad investment. Obviously, it's fewer trips. It would let me take 2 trips selling the crop off these fields instead of 1. I might as well take it nearby, at least closer. Trying to kind of make sure I stay out of the way, so I think I'll just leave it there. Turn the lights off because it's already been bright enough for everything else, but I'll be back after the rain to get this done. Alright, so welcome again back to the year end here on Misty Hills within Farmers Only Club. So it's time to part with our oats. Gonna have the challenge again of trying to get into the really, really tight opening that is really hard to see. Kind of from either side, the way this is placed. But again, this is really one of the better places within the landscape that I can do it, because I'm not giving up valuable land, so forth. So 247,895 liters. And if we take a peek, luckily again, Hobo's 631, potentially going up a bit, but as we've talked about before, being greedy is kind of a little bit of the enemy of where we'd be at here. Because at most I'm going to gain, maybe I'd gain $5. And, across 247,000 liters, that's going to be $1,000. So it's not going to be something massive. And it's $5 out of, over 600. So not exactly what you'd want to be spending time on. So we've got a little bit of the grain fumes coming up here as it pours out in the early morning light. Grain dust, which sometimes is flammable, I believe. I've seen that certainly, like silo fires and things like that. I've seen on the Millennial Farmer thing him talking about stuff like that once in a while. But once again, very similar in yield to what I've gotten before. No real reason to assume it wouldn't be. We're up at the slightly higher level. I didn't run over any crops this time, so, again, when I was a couple hundred lower, I think that was simply crop damage that did it to me. But we are right up there at the top level again, so I've got another load and then a tiny bit more, and then I will deliver the bales over to the same location, because that's the only bale location, and that was now at $49, which is one of the highest it's been at. Usually it's in the 40s, but that'll be up there, and once again, whether it stays there, because right now it's not showing an up or a down arrow, it's just showing flat. But I'm going to go ahead and do that work, and as you can see, I need 370,000 for the seeder that I'm targeting. I think I'm basically going to have it when I take this truck over, and everything else will be some possible additions. So I may pivot a bit, because I've got one other idea for the farm that someone has suggested that I think I'm going to try to make a little bit more money as well. But let me move forward to the point where I'm ready to do something, and I will be back. So I've got about 8,000 liters left, a little bit less than that. So the truck I'm sure is full by now. It doesn't take very long. Wow, they've got 4 fermenting silos here. Crazy. They are really plowing ahead with that operation. But I am taking my large tractor, the one that I purchased specifically for this purpose. Obviously it has other benefits for being as large as it is, but it's the thing that allowed me to upgrade some of my implements, and so the implement I'm really focused on now is that SEEDER. So I am heading up to the shop to go ahead and make that purchase and that swap. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and sell this for 54,603, or about that. Right, it's actually 375, but this is the one we're looking at. Alright, so I've actually gone ahead and kind of flipped the colors that come standard. Also went ahead and did the rims in the green. That's kind of the accent color at this point, where on the original the accent color is more the orange, but as you've heard, I like orange. But this has the benefit too of lowering the price by 1,000 from the options. Alright, so sold and bought, and there we go. We have 47,000. I was going to say 400,000, I think. So we're not quite at the point to do the other option, but certainly with a little bit of selling we should be. Although I might have to sell more than we think, but that'll be alright. So I'm also going to go ahead, at least this opens right up, thank goodness. We're not having the same problem we had with the Pottinger, where when we tried to open the covers we had a problem. But I'm going to go ahead while I'm here, and I'm just going to fill it with seed and fill it with fertilizer, and that will help me know what my amounts are as well. Alright, so 4,800 in seeds compared to 1,600 for the other planter, or seeder. Alright, and the fill point looks like it's way back here for the fertilizer. It's always fun trying to figure that out as well. Alright, and as opposed to 2,400 liters for fertilizer, we have 3,000. But this will also probably be a little bit better of a mix, because if you recall, I really didn't have to fill the fertilizer a lot on that Pottinger that I had, because it just had such a large tank compared to the seeds. So this may actually work out in that kind of both will be close to being empty at the same time. The process I had working was I would normally, when I went to fill one, when one emptied, I'd just fill the other, because that way I was avoiding wasting time running back to the silo. But yeah, 7,800 liters versus, what would it have been, 24, 30, versus 4,000. So it's not quite double the capacity, but it's well over double the width. So we go from 6 meters to 15. So it's basically 2.5 times as wide, which should theoretically then cut my planting time or seeding time by 2.5 times, which is no small thing. So I need, I think, in the 70,000 range to take the next step that I was hoping to do, given that an entire load of straw is like 12,000. Not sure I'm gonna make it, because I also think I am low on seed and fertilizer. I was gonna go pick that up, but well, we'll see, because what I'm looking at is another somewhat, I'll call them passive, because I don't have to do anything other than just keep it fed, kind of like the greenhouses where I just need to keep water in them. But it's another income stream. So once I place it, even if I'm a little bit low on funds, I will be getting more money by the day. And I've got basically 3 days to get to the point that I need to plant, and I have seeds and fertilizer in my implement already. So it is full. It's not as if I'm going to go back to my silos and pull things out. But here we are back on the farm. And we'll just kind of leave it here because obviously I'll have to snap the line later and so forth. Alright, speaking of, one of the actions I'm going to take later is I'm going to fill up the greenhouses because you can see we are getting dangerously low. So I have let that go for a while. I will take care of that off screen later. But let me go run some hay bales over for sale. And if we are lucky enough to get to the point where I can do something, or the next thing that I'm planning, we'll bring it back. If not, we'll just kind of end things up. So you can see we've got a stack of bales, good amount still in storage, but we are going to hit our target. So I need 72,000. I'm getting about 13,000 every load here, so we're going to kind of be closer to 78,000 or so. So I figured I could have like really pushed it close, but I'm like, you know, again, it's kind of the whole greedy side thing. It's just not worth it because I can make things simpler by having some extra cash, because building anything, as you know, if it's not entirely flat or anything like that, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Now, I'd like a little bit more daylight, but I think we'll be okay. I'm trying to think. I'll use that area to drive. Because what I'm thinking is, I think I want to go ahead and do something like over in one of these two gaps. Because it does have to do with the bales. I have to pick up the bales the way I did, and if I can come out here and I can avoid creating any kind of challenge for myself between that and the silo that's back there, that would be a good thing and ideal for certain. So what I am doing is, someone, I think it was Catalyzer, made a comment on one of the videos that there is this $72,000 small biomass power plant that uses straw and will basically take 800,000 liters and turn it into $52,000. So you can tell, you know, even at $50 a thousand, that would be about 40,000. So I'm going to be getting about 70 or so per thousand if I do this. And so that seems like a no-brainer. And yeah, it looks like I can do it here. It's quite flat. I'm only paying $8 to do anything. So we're going to give this a try. Alright. So, and we can see here then that it's going to take straw and that it converts it then to power, which just gets sold, I believe, is what ends up happening. You know, but I've got 6,400. I don't know what the capacity of this is. I'm not sure if that 800,000 is what the capacity is. If it is, that's going to take a good amount of what I have left. But yeah, what I didn't want to do, like, it would have been easy to put it like there, but then I can't do this. I've suddenly discovered this time is actually a nice turnaround, because I don't have to go in all the way to the hobo's delivery point there. I can just do what I did and turn around. But obviously if I block that, that won't work. So I'm going to go ahead, get this row picked up, and then we're going to dump it over there, and we'll take a peek. Shazam was just joining right as I started to turn, but really long sync. But yeah, let's take a look here. And looks like the point is right there. So the question is going to be, will it take it Alright, there we go. I was starting to get a little worried because it was kind of all going down on the ground. So you can see the tray filling up a bit, but it doesn't look like it's full. So let's take a look now. So we put in 265, and then basically it's doing one cycle every 30 minutes, or every hour, actually, 24 hours, and then basically charging $1 an hour. But if you've ever looked through, like, you'll see that power does not go anywhere. So as far as it's not something that would be stored somewhere and then be sold. So the real question will be, you know, how are we going to do? But I would think that I can get really close to getting all of that over. So I'm going to go ahead and dump out, I think I should have enough for another 48 bales. Oh, in the interim, I had mistakenly dumped square bales, which was really fun because I had to then shove them over, shove them back, try to not tip them over. It actually worked out, but it took probably 5 minutes to fix the error of my ways. So just be careful if you're doing that, because from the round bales, and they're about the same size, and I think what ended up creating my confusion was, I think the first square bales are 9,000 liters, and I knew in my VIP series, the alfalfa straw, which is also straw, I'm moving at those are 9,000 because they're technically, the way they function in the game are like hay bales, because you're tedding and then you're just picking it up. And so they were 9,000 liter bales instead of 11,000 liter bales like straw. So yeah. So I think I had 9,000 in my head and was like, oh yeah, that's the right amount. And then suddenly they started popping out, like what you saw there, and they were square. And I'm like, I don't have anything to pick this up. But yeah, we've only got a couple bales sitting in the store there. But the benefit here of having this, if it works as well as I hope it does, because what I'm really going to be unsure of is kind of the throughput, because it looks like, I'm thinking it's just going to take 4,000 liters every cycle, so every hour, and turn it into that electricity, which means over you know, over a full day, it's only going to use, you know, maybe 90,000 liters of straw. So that basically what I have already put in there is 3 days worth of processing. So I'm thinking once you fill this, I may have pretty close to a full year. If not, it's going to be 9 months worth. And so it's not going to process things as quickly as selling. Obviously, I can sell all these bales. You know, I can sell as many bales as I want. The sell point is limitless. And so the 140 bales, so basically I'd be able to do 72 bales in a 9-month cycle, maybe. So like 96 bales in a year, which obviously then means I would always have a deficit of 50 bales. So I have to decide, you know, do I just now slow things down? Because obviously I'm also making significantly more off these bales. So I'm pretty much going to be at the point where I probably can make as much over that year as I'm making. You know, so that's what I'm going to have to keep an eye out, is am I going to make 75,000 in 12 months off of this biomass plant if it runs constantly. So I've just got to go till this time next year and see where I sit. And if I do that or more, this is about the same, and then I have the benefit that I could sell the bales, or I could just not collect straw every year and just kind of slow things down, knowing that I'll still be okay. That's interesting, because you can see the the thing is further ahead, the push wall, whatever it's called. I'm sure it has a real name, but I guess I should check and make sure that I'm not suddenly having no space. No, I think it's going to go to at least 750,000, but I'm thinking 750 might be the full piece, but it might be the 400 or the 800, which might be why they gave me that stat that it makes $52,000 off of 800,000 liters. You know, and that would be about 9-10 months. So like I said, if I do a couple more, you know, am I going to be right up there or not? But then I could not have to do straw regularly, and that would obviously shorten time as well. If I, say, pick it up every other year, or I could always lay straw down. It doesn't cost any extra time to just spit straw out on the field and pick up some amount and then just leave the rest and then plow it under the next year. So I could also do that. But at this point, now you understand what I had in the plans, and so definitely thank you for the heads up on that small biomass plant. And I've seen other farmers have that. Obviously, I just hadn't looked at the mechanics of what is really involved. But when someone saw what I was doing, they said, you know, this could be an alternative. You spend 72,000, and then basically off of 800,000 liters, you got 52,000 back. So, you know, 1.2 million liters, and I've probably paid for the biomass plant, and then we're ready to go. So it might have a really short couple-year payback period at most. Because obviously I did spend the 72,000 to put that in, and right now, no change in cost. But I'm going to go ahead and get this filled up. You know, may leave the couple bales here. Obviously, if there's some, I'll leave them just laying on the ground, and then I think they'll get consumed as the biomass plant operates. I'm not going to repick them up and put them in storage here. Depends how many, I suppose, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this entire thing in there, and maybe I'll just leave it at that and leave whatever I have in the bale store alone. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill up the water in my greenhouses so those continue to run while I'm waiting for spring to come back and to be back on the farm. And then obviously we'll be able to take our first peek that I can share with you how the biomass plant is doing and so forth. So with that, I'm going to wrap this year up. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, and you haven't dropped a like down, if you'd consider doing that, I'd appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber yet, if you'd consider that, I would appreciate that as well. So with that, I will see you next time.